Quinlan is Mike's second Halloween skin. He is an S tier and he is relevant to the Halloween lore storyline. As far as we know, he is not the same person as Jamboree, his previous Halloween costume. Quinlan is a cheeky gentleman with a complicated relationship with the vampires at the Count's castle, especially Bloody Sword. That's his uncle and they are not having it with each other. Quinlan's mother was a nature witch, which I assume is a witch that speaks to animals? I said witch a stupid amount of times, didn't I? I assume this because Galatia's nature witch skin depicts her as someone who has a special connection with animals. She's not a part of the Halloween lore, but that's just where I'm basing my definition of nature witch from. This comes into play later. Quinlan's dad is an old vampire and is also Bloody Sword's brother. The relationship between Quinlan's parents wasn't accepted by their respective clans, and a swarm of angry witches killed Quinlan's father. Quinlan's mother went missing and baby Quinlan was rescued by the Count. That is this guy. So now we know that Quinlan is half vampire and half witch. With Quinlan's parents out of the scene, I assume that the Count raised Quinlan, or at least Quinlan was raised within his castle. Somewhere. By someone. Quinlan's design is a very interesting one, depicting him with straight orange hair and gleaming golden eyes. I miss his curls. His crazy coat, sleeves, and hat were designed to have an unbalanced effect, and I think this works wonderfully. His cape has 3 wings instead of 2, his lipstick goes further up one side of his mouth than the other, his eyes don't match up. It's really clever and it really adds to his character. And I believe this design was inspired by Tim Burton's version of the Mad Hatter from the 2010 adaptation of Alice in Wonderland. You can see the resemblance in the wild orange hair, the lipstick, the makeup, the tea party obsession, and the association with rabbits. Even the band on the hat is just like the one on the Hatter. Speaking of the band, it's also incredibly similar to the band found on the Count's hat. There are actually quite a few similarities between these two costumes, which, among other things, is why I was wondering whether the Count raised Quinlan or not. It might just be a vampire fashion thing. Both the Count and Quinlan have these bands on their top hats, accompanied by these little pearls? Beads? And these wings. They also have cloaks shaped into bat-like wings, the Count having 2 and Quinlan having 3. The Count also seems to fly with his cloak, so does that mean Quinlan can fly with his? We see him floating in promotional art, but I don't know whether that's just for the coolness factor or not. They also both have the ability to turn into a bat. Well, in the Count's case, it's multiple bats. Quinlan also carries around these adorable bunny-shaped juggling bombs and a bunny plush, which might be a reference to the White Rabbit from Alice in Wonderland. That or the Marsh Hare. I'm quite sure that these rabbits are supposed to represent his mother's side of the family and her relationship with nature. Being half witch is also the reason why he doesn't turn to ash in the sunlight, and the reason why he doesn't have white hair like all the other vampires. But the vampires turning to ash thing might just be a rumour, so... Quinlan is looking for his mother, certain that she is alive, but he hasn't had any luck finding her so far. He went to the icy forest up north, downed some medicine that Helen gave him, and made it back home with nothing. Wah wah. Oh right, Helen. Helen is a relative of his. Not sure how they're related, but they share the same Duncan surname, the Duncan clan surname? And on top of that, apparently Quinlan wasn't always Quinlan's name. Bloody Sword takes a jab at him and is all like, where, so you're going by Quinlan now? And Quinlan's all like, shut up and leave, you old fart. This is pretty stupid coming from Bloody Sword, considering his name was also changed. He went from Bloody Sword in 2019 to becoming Crimson Sword in 2022. I highly doubt it, but I wonder if this has anything to do with that clergyman he's afraid of? The one that allegedly can awaken a beast within him? Or is it a party name for the event? Whatever, this video isn't about him. Who Quinlan was before he received the name Quinlan isn't something I can answer with the information we currently have, but it's interesting to know that he previously went by a different name. Speaking of Quinlan's origins, I'm guessing that the start of his showroom is supposed to symbolize the connection between his mother and father. It's hard to make out, but that is a bunny juggling ball being fused with a bat. To make Quinlan. If we take Quinlan's connection to rabbits as a trait that his mother passed down to him, the bat could easily represent Mike's father. In this little discussion between Helen and Quinlan, we see Quinlan speaking about the slim chance of finding his mother by entering the forest. He didn't end up finding her, of course, which may link into what he said about witches having a short lifespan. Witches concentrate their life force in order to manipulate magic, meaning their lives are shorter than the average humans. The Count also stated that Quinlan's mother had apparently been put to trial, but conveniently we never hear about this again, and we have no idea how she disappeared. Perhaps she escaped, perhaps she died from an overuse of magic, or due to something else. Either way, it's quite likely that she is no longer alive. As for Quinlan's father, we already know what happened to him. From there, Quinlan just grew up, I guess. Now he wishes to go back in time with the Count to seek help from Helen. Why he is doing this? We don't know for sure. He didn't specify. My theory is that he is going back to help preserve the vitality of vampires and witches, to see his parents, or to unravel Bloody Sword's memory tampering game. But honestly, at this point, it could be for anything. So we don't have all that much solid information on Quinlan yet, so this section will be dedicated to random thoughts and things I found interesting. Ideas and concepts, if you will. Some of these are just like brainstorms for what he could possibly be doing as a character in the future. Quinlan was found by the Count, pointed out here in this dialogue. This isn't really that important, we've covered this idea already, but I wanted to compare it to this line aimed at Helen from Eclectic, a witch. These responses are drawn from the Count and Eclectic once they suspect that Quinlan and Helen respectively are trying to stop them in one way or another. Quinlan and Helen are in a similar situation, each having a mentor that constantly reminds them of their current state and how the two wouldn't be who they are today without help from their mentors. Quinlan desires to work with the Count, where Helen feels a bit more insecure amongst Eclectic's plans. Don't forget it was I, blah 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 blah, kind of stuff. Don't forget it was I who cast you out of the Halloween story. Quinlan is referred to as the Mixed Blood Baron in one of the chapters. If my brief Google searching is correct, which it might not be, a baron can sometimes be stepping stones to the nobles above them. Quinlan is referred to as a noble on his wiki page, so that checks out. A baron ranks higher than a knight, but is lower than a count. Sound familiar? This is especially funky considering Quinlan is also referred to as the Mysterious Knight, and is closely associated with the Count in one way or another. I don't know if this has any significance to the lore, but it sure is an interesting observation. Quinlan is possibly very powerful. This concept refers to Bloody Sword's comment on Quinlan's life. He states that Quinlan should have been killed at a very young age, but he tenaciously survived to his current age. He also says that Quinlan cannot be killed nowadays. Not only is it rude of him to discuss Quinlan dying, but it's somewhat ominous. Why can't Quinlan be killed now? Is it because he's close to the Count? Because he's a noble? Or does his vampire and witch heritage give him an advantage that other bloodlines don't have? And why is Bloody Sword thinking about this so much anyway? Does he want his nephew dead? We already know this, but Quinlan's father was an elder vampire, meaning he was one of the first vampires, similar to Bloody Sword. Quinlan's mother was a witch who could control nature, something that isn't possible anymore due to the waning of the witches. If Quinlan is the son of two powerful beings, does that mean he's potentially more powerful than we realize? We haven't seen any showcase of Quinlan's magic outside of his ability to summon floating teacups and his shapeshifting abilities, so it's possible that there's a lot more to him than we realize. Quinlan's age is unknown. Bloody Sword reveals this in response to Quinlan making fun of his fear of a clergyman. Are you still this naive after living so long? You'll understand one day. This implies that Quinlan has been around for quite a while, but we don't know how long specifically. Not at all surprising considering he's a vampire. This conversation also brings up the clergyman releasing the beast within Bloody Sword, which is interesting. He also says that Quinlan will understand one day. What this is supposed to say, I don't know, unfortunately. It may be referring to the battle involving the Embrace and Misfit. Perhaps Quinlan doesn't know about this battle or the previous state of the bloodline, hence the so naive comment from the old bloodsucker over here. Quinlan's identity. This simply refers to him having vampire and witch blood at the same time. The Count brings up how he knows about and identifies more with his vampire side, which makes me wonder about his witch side. Does he display an equal amount of interest in both sides of his family tree? Is he curious about his witch side? Is he capable of casting magic? Quinlan is quite knowledgeable about the state of vampire vitality and the witch's waning. Does he worry about both sides of his family growing weaker? How does this impact him? Does he want to fix it? Does he want to fit in? Again, we don't know. It's just interesting to think about. And our final point is Quinlan doesn't like pumpkin. That's it, that's the idea. He smelt it in Helen's blood and got so disgusted by it that he threatened to leave if she kept the scent on her. And that just about concludes this video. I may post more analysis of Quinlan if we see him again in the future. I think he's a very interesting character, and I hope that he returns for future Halloween events, along with the more lore-deprived characters like Misfit, Phoenix, and Moonblessed. Maybe even Ratatosk? Is that how you say it? Ratatosk? Squirrel! I think he's a Halloween character. I could be completely wrong. Like usual, my videos are not perfect. If you have something you'd like to share or something I missed, please drop it down in the comments. I'd love to see where you guys think this character is going next. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you soon, hopefully. Yeah, sorry about the gap. Have a great day or night!